Welcome to the Vault Excel. Happy Sunday, everybody. This commentary is a three-part live pertaining to Chad Daybell, Lori Daybell, and Caitlin Armstrong. And also I'm going to talk about, briefly, Mr. Tim Furter. The Boy in the Box is the title they've given this case where he was found guilty of abuse of an adoptive son. We're going to chop up that information as well. So basically about 4 subject matters I want to discuss during this live stream. Also tonight, join me for exclusive information pertaining to Will and Jada Smith. A lot of chitter chatter has been coming out of her mouth since the arrest of Keefe D, the alleged conspirator, the murder of Tupac Shakur. Well, now she wants to discuss her marriage. She's done an interview with Hoda Kotb. So we're going to chop that up. We're also going to hear from Chris Rock. I'm going to bring you commentary allegedly that Chris Rock has brought forward pertaining to Jada. Obviously, someone saying he doesn't want her discussing him or saying anything about him. So we're going to chop all that up later tonight. Hopefully, I will have some guests come on the panel because I will drop the link for that live stream so you all can join me. But I'm going to mention the polls I put up briefly before going live. And also before I get into that, I saw a story coming out of Florida. It says, Hialeah mother of newborn murder, teen son charged. A 13-year-old boy killed his mother. Do not know why. Left the newborn untouched. Grace of God, he did not harm the baby. Why would a 13-year-old kill his mother? It has also been said that there are no allegations of mental health pertaining to the young boy. So what happened? Very interesting story. I'll bring you an update on that. Let's go to my polls. Thank you all so much for joining me. Lori Daybell's attorney claims she was not competent to stand trial, a possible error made by the judge. Therefore, he is seeking an appeal on her behalf. Did the judge make the right decision? 92% of you said yes, 8% said no, 12 votes. I believe right before I scrolled up, it was at 100%. But anyway, 92% of you do believe the judge made the right decision to have Lori go forward in the trial. She was deemed competent by a judge. So 92% of you believe that the judge made the right decision. She has a new attorney now, and he is seeking some type of error made by the judge that she should have been deemed, I guess, incompetent to stand trial. So what are you saying? Her attorney should have said what? She was insane? Would she have wanted to give an insanity plea? See, all that matters because they do have to consult with their client as far as the defense. Why does Chad Daybell want cameras inside the courtroom? Number 1, wants attention. 30% of you believe it's for attention. 5% of you said viewers can see, hear him turn on Lori. Doesn't care, 15%. And then it's A or B, 50%. So 50% of you believe he wants cameras in the courtroom for attention and also so viewers can hear and see him turn on Lori. So let's ask that question. Will he turn on his wife, Lori? Because my understanding, they do not have any contact with one another. Very interesting. Some would say, oh, that's a violation of their civil rights. But anywho, why does he want cameras in the courtroom? He's not going to have a speedy trial. It's expected to happen in April 2024, his trial. His attorneys need more time to get the information gathered pertaining to his case. So what is it that they're gathering? Will we hear something different than we've heard pertaining to Lori? Will we get an explanation from Mr. Daybell? Will he say? Will he testify? What happened with the children, the nephew, his wife? Because, a person will, it will be kind of hard to explain all these deaths. What would a person say? Oh, yeah, my wife died accidentally or in her sleep or had a heart malfunction, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I know now a different medical examiner says she died of asphyxiation, suffocation, blah, blah, blah. Imagine that. Oh, yeah, I killed her kids. Well, why did you kill her kids? Well, because she told me she didn't want them anymore. She didn't want to be a parent anymore. Or they were zombies. Will he testify to his own defense, Mr. Chad Daybell? Very interesting. The boy in the box case. Do you think Mrs. Federer will be found guilty of child abuse as well? As I said, Mr. Tim Federer has been found guilty by 12 members of a jury in Florida. His wife will have to stand trial for the same crime, child abuse, aggravated child abuse, I would suspect. Will she be found guilty? 85% of you said yes. 15% of you said not sure. Very interesting. So we're going to talk briefly about Tim Federer, his case, the wife, her crying in court. Some believe she's possibly crying for herself because she's realizing, well, they found him guilty. 12 members will possibly find me guilty as well. And I do believe 12 will find her guilty because she can't say, I didn't know what was going on. She's the mother. She knew about the box. She lives in that house. She's the parent. And what's strange about this case is that the child was let out of the box to go to school and then put back in the box. What I have to ask the child is, why didn't you ever run away? Why go back? First time they let you out of the box, why did you go back to that house? I'm very curious to know why the child returned to the house. Very interesting. And how did the information get out about him being in the box? Because I did not follow the trial. I just would give you all updates on my community page, but I am curious to how the parents were discovered as abusing him. My weekend movie suggestion is Best Friend, now playing on Tubi. So if you're interested in Black cinema, Best Friend is now playing on the Tubi app. Let's get down to business. Thank you all so much for joining me.
The man accused of murdering his two stepchildren as well as his first wife, he says he wants cameras in the courtroom for his trial. Chad Daybell's attorney made that request at his latest court date today. It would be a big change from his wife Lori Vallow Daybell's trial, where the judge only allowed cameras in for the verdict. She was sentenced to life in prison earlier this year. If Chad Daybell is found guilty, he could face the death penalty. Right now, his trial is set for next April.
ABC4 Utah is the source. So the death penalty issue, why just him, not Lori? You will hear later commentary that it was something about an error of evidentiary material not handed over in time to the defense from the state. And that is the reason why Lori did not face the death penalty, which makes no damn sense because you all have had ample enough time to prepare all information. And it is the state's job to hand over any evidentiary material to the defense. So I don't even understand why that that even happened, because she should have faced the death penalty. Cameras in the courtroom. Why does he want them? Please take the poll on my community page. Many of you believe it's for attention, and possibly he will turn on Lori and he'd want everyone to see and hear what he has to say in the courtroom. Hello, everybody. Why does he want cameras? And as you heard here pertaining to cameras in Lori's trial, only the verdict was recorded for live viewing. Very interesting information. Let's get to Miss Lori. She's always a hot topic. Every time you turn around, there's something about her. It's never ending. Never ending. Thank you all so much for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome during the live. I thought I had something up here about Miss Lori. I guess I didn't. 1 second, you guys. Hold on 1 second. I had some information. Now I don't even have it. Let's see. Let's go to this. This is from a couple weeks ago. Hello, everybody in the chat. Hello, Joy. Hello, Queen. Hello, Raymond Girl.
Doomsday Mom is getting more time to file an appeal. The Supreme Court of Idaho just granted the extension. It was originally filed on September the 19th. Vallow was convicted earlier in the year for murdering her 2 children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, and conspiring to kill her husband's first wife. Vallow is currently facing extradition to Arizona for more charges related to the death of her ex-husband, Charles Vallow. Lori's current husband, Chad Daybell, is awaiting his trial.
Wait, did they say she's
for more charges related to the death of her ex-husband, Charles Vallow, currently facing extradition to her husband's first wife. Vallow is currently facing extradition to Arizona for more charges related to the death of her ex-husband, Charles Vallow. Lori's current husband, Chad Daybell, is awaiting his trial in Idaho.
All right, that's Fox 10 Phoenix. I had just read this commentary about her attorney. Let me see if I can pull it up somewhere else, because each network has something different. Thank you all so much for joining me. You can't keep up with all this nonsense. Every day is something. This is strange because I just had it. Well, I wanted to play you all that commentary. This is strange. I was just reading it. Let me see. Maybe I have it somewhere else. I have to store so many things, different places. I'll tell you. How's everybody doing out there? Slow motion today. Slow motion. Well, I thought I had it. This is weird. All right, I'll get on to the next. If I find it, I'll bring it. I'll bring it to you. Because I could have sworn I shared it on this community page, but I don't see it anywhere on here for some weird reason. It's very strange. Let's talk about Mr. Timothy Farrader, found guilty on all 3 counts. WPBF 25 News is the source. Hold on. Nothing is acting right today. Strange. Sorry it's taking me so long.
Breaking news, there is that verdict in the trial of a Jupiter father charged with child abuse for locking his son in a box-like room in the garage. Let's go live into the courtroom and listen in. This is Judge Howard Coates.
Madam Clerk, please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 15th Judicial Circuit, Criminal Division in and for Palm Beach County, Florida, case number 22 CF001136, BMB Division B, State of Florida versus Timothy Don Farrader, defendant. Verdict. We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged in the information. As to count 2, we find the defendant guilty of false imprisonment as charged in the information. As to count 3, we find the defendant guilty of neglect of a child as charged in the information. So we say all this 12th day of October 2023 in West Palm Beach, Florida, signed by the jury foreperson.
All right, does either side wish to have the jury polled? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, there's been a request to have the jury polled, and that simply means that each of you will be asked the question of whether the verdict is your verdict or not. If it is, you should only answer yes. If it is not, of course, you should answer no and nothing further. So, Madam Clerk, at this time, if you could please poll the jury.
Juror 1, were the verdicts as read your verdict? Juror 2, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror 3, were the verdicts as read your verdicts? Juror 4, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror 5, were the verdicts as read your verdicts? Juror 6, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time, this concludes your service to your community in this matter. I want to thank you for the time and commitment that you've made to this case. It went a lot longer than I originally estimated. But in any event, I watched all of you during the course of the trial. You did exactly what I had requested. You stayed focused and tuned into the evidence during all phases of the case. And I hope everyone has a much better appreciation of the great responsibility that comes with serving as a juror in our community. So with that, I do want to thank you. My bailiff will give you a letter of thanks from me. Also a certificate of appreciation from the Palm Beach County Bar Association, and a short little survey that I'll just ask that you return it when you get some time. Other than that, I do wish the best to all of you. And with that, you're excused. And Mark, you may escort the jurors out.
Don't skip this video if you haven't.
Brief intermission. He's very stoic while the verdict was read, Mr. Farrader. Very strange. Maybe he's in shock. Maybe he was in shock. I don't know. Was he in shock? Was he expecting this verdict Some say maybe he wasn't expecting. They weren't entitled to his or her opinion watching a person. That's why they want cameras in court, so you can see the people's reactions of the family members, judge, lawyers, the witnesses. Because that's they will never show the jury panel, but he's just stirring off, and that's the whole point. What can you say? Because that's conversation was mentioned on one of the crime networks. Why didn't I think Vinny said that? Why didn't you explain why you put the child in the box? Well, Vinny, what was he going to say? Think about it. What was he going to say? His reasoning for putting a child in a box. I put him in the box for this reason here, knowing no one is going to agree with it, no matter if the child was waived or not. We don't really know if the child was waived because you're going to have to show a receipt to prove that the child had all these difficulties to warrant you putting the child in a makeshift room within a room. I'd like to know, why didn't they seek alternative measures for the boy child? If they did, what were they? Because putting a child in a box is not the answer.
All right, everyone may be seated. All right, Ms. Coakley, anything that I need to address as far as adjudication in accordance with the verdict?
He doesn't have a prior adjudication, but it is aggravated child abuse is a first-degree felony, so we'd request adjudication at this time. We also ask that he be remanded into custody at this time, pending sentencing.
Ms. Murad?
Your Honor, I would request that the court, as to him being remanded, he has been out of custody for 2 years without any issues or any violations of bond. If the court is inclined to remand him, my request is that the court put him on a monitor. He does have a place that he can live in Palm Beach County. He has no criminal record whatsoever, and he has no custody of any of the children.
Okay. All right, so the court, I'm going to adjudicate the defendant in accordance with the verdict: guilty of the charge of aggravated child abuse, guilty of the charge of false imprisonment, and guilty of neglect. At this time, I'm going to remand the defendant to the custody of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department. That's without prejudice for you to file any type of motion that you deem appropriate, Ms. Murad, for pretrial release or release during pending appeal. This ruling today is without prejudice for me to receive that and consider that at the appropriate time. Let me get an idea as to what the state is looking for in terms of a sentencing hearing.
I can do it as soon as the defense can be ready. He is entitled to a PSI. I don't know what the defense's position is as to that.
I will waive PSI, Your Honor. This is a sentencing that I should be able to get done relatively quickly. Should the court have time in 2 or 3 weeks?
I'll make whatever time that I have to expedite sentencing, if that's.
While the judge is speaking here, he stands up. First, he turned around and said something to the guy directly behind him. Then he stands up, hugs his wife. It's not a heartfelt hug, which you're getting ready to go to prison. So why not hug her like it's the last time you're going to be able to hug her for a while? I'm just saying. It's a half-baked hug, kind of hug you give people that you really don't know. She's crying. And as someone said, possibly crying for herself. Maybe more for herself than her husband going away. How much time will he get in prison? I thought I heard a mention of 40 years, perhaps. That's a lot. Is that enough time? Too much time? Too less of a time? Because this has got to stop, this abusing of children. And you can't keep giving them passes. You keep seeing this all the time with our courts. You judges keep giving these people bonds. You give them bonds even if, they don't have a criminal record. As you hear this attorney speaking on his behalf, give him an ankle monitor. He doesn't have a criminal record. This is his first time getting a criminal record. Well, this crime is enough, I would say. 3 counts of abuse of a child, neglect, false imprisonment, aggravated child abuse. I mean, what's your point? So the judge said, no, remanded. And I'm sure he was stunned because he did finally make a facial expression when the judge said remanded into the sheriff's custody. Finally, you got a reaction out of Mr. Ferreter. Isn't that amazing? No emotion, only when the judge says remanded. Free for 2 years. Should he have been free for those 2 years? I'm surprised the lawyer didn't say, well, he needs to tidy up some business before, going to prison. She didn't say any of that, just that he didn't have a criminal record. Wife crying. 2 men patting him on the shoulder. What are you patting him on the shoulder for? That kind of pat where it's going to be okay. You're going to be all right. Well, he ain't going to be all right. He's not going to be all right because his freedom has been forfeited. But by his own choosing, he and the wife, because they could have made better decisions on what to do with this alleged wayward boy. And if he's adopted 9 times out of 10, he was wayward for a reason. His background, where he came from, gene pool, all those things matter in the case of waywardness or problem child. I don't know. I wasn't there. So what I have to ask is the obvious. What type of person was he beforehand? What type of person was he before he got the child? How long did they have the child? Do they have other children? I saw a girl in the background looking kind of crazy, like she was distraught. Possibly his own child was a girl child. It's a very diabolical situation here.
Like sentencing, if that's what both sides request.
That's fine, Your Honor. I won't need more than 20 or 30 minutes for
Hey,
my
hippie.
All
presentation.
right, so Ms. Murad,
I would need an hour to hour and a half.
so I'm going to set aside 2 hours for sentencing, and Cynthia, let's pick a date on an afternoon for 2-hour setting. No earlier than 3 weeks out. That should be enough time for you to do what you have to do.
I'm going to address somebody in the chat. The parents were at their wits' end, should have sought another home replacement for Roman. Well, Buffalo, I want you to think about that wording you're using. Wits' end. That sounds like they had enough. They didn't know what else to do with them. Because that's usually what people say when they don't know what else to do. I'm at my wits' end. But you see what happened, though, at the end. One's now incarcerated. One will be facing a jury of her peers. And a boy child is assumingly in the state's care or with somebody else. Who is he with? How is he adjusting? That was asked last night while I was watching Buffini Politan. How is the child doing? Somebody might want to ask about how he's doing. Because he was the one locked in the box. And if you think he was a problem before, well, my goodness, he most definitely would be a problem child now, don't you think? Or too afraid to talk, have an opinion, as to not be locked in a box again. I don't claim anything because I wasn't there. I don't know how they treated him. I don't know what happened to him before he got to their house. I don't know if he had developmental disabilities. See, all those are major factors in how a person behaves. But I do know their responses to whatever they thought was negative about the child was irresponsible. Because you don't lock anybody in a box. You don't go build a makeshift box to put a human being in because they're not acting the way you think they should act. If that's the case, we would have a whole lot of boxes around here. Hell, if that's the case, we just have boxes outside, just throw people in them. Now you go in there until you learn your lesson now, till you learn how to behave now. Their wits end. So now you have to ask, if they had other children, how did they treat them? Was he treated different than the other children? Did he come in the door acting out? What age did they get the boy child? How did he get along with other children, other people? And why in the world did he not tell somebody what was going on day one? Why return to that house after being let out of a box. That's something I really don't understand.
No earlier than 3 weeks out. That should be enough time for you to do what you have to do, Ms. Rod, but no more than 5 weeks. So in that 2 week period there, let's pick a 2-hour setting. All right, does that date work for everybody? November 16th for sentencing
Yes.
for the state?
1 second.
November 16th. Okay.
Yes, you said Thursday or a Monday?
Thursday, November 16th.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at October, so sorry.
You're looking at
Yes,
tomorrow.
that is fine with the date.
All right, so the sentencing in this matter is set for Thursday, November 16th at, what is the time, 2:30? 1:30, 2 hours reserved. All right, anything else that the court needs to address before we adjourn?
No, Your Honor, we are gonna need to do a status, I know Ms. Marshall's in here, we're gonna need to do a status check, because I don't think we have a future date on this comparator.
Can we do it the same day as the sentencing?
That'd be fine, if you're good with that.
I might reach out to Ms. Marshall about having something having it next week so we can get,
Whenever you want to come in will be fine with me. The morning docket, as you know, is generally pretty heavy, so one more hearing is not going to make a huge difference. Okay. All right. So then that concludes the court's business today. I do want to thank both sides for a professionally presented case. We had a couple hiccups here and there, but over the course of an 8-day trial, that's to be expected. But thanks to both sides for the commendable job that each of you did. All right. Thank you.
8-day trial.
But that's without prejudice for.
You are watching live the court proceedings, the guilty verdict for Timothy Ferreter, the Jupiter father charged with locking his son in a box in a garage. As you just heard it announced, he has been found guilty on all counts. Guilty of aggravated child abuse, that is a first-degree felony, false imprisonment, and neglect of a child. He now faces 40 years in prison. This is his wife, Tracy Ferreter. She was also charged with child abuse. She is going to be tried at a separate time. Timothy Ferreter just gave his wife a hug goodbye because he is now going into custody. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputies will take him into custody, and he will now be in jail. He's been out right now as he's been awaiting his trial. He was arrested in February of last year. He and his wife keeping their son, a middle schooler, in an 8-foot by 8-foot box in the garage for much of the day. Their son, who is now 16 years old, testified against his father. He said that he did not blame his parents for their actions and said they were just responding to his bad behavior. Again, you're watching now Timothy Ferreter being fingerprinted here in the courtroom. His sentencing will be Thursday, November 16th. And again, he was offered a plea agreement before his trial that would have sent him to jail for just 2 years. And now he does
let's talk about that, the 2-year
40
plea.
years in prison. He showed very little emotion when that verdict was read, and that verdict came back quickly. Jurors just started deliberating this morning. They watched some testimony of one of the victim's sisters. They rewatched that for about an hour and a half. And then shortly after, they came back with this verdict shortly after 1 o'clock this afternoon, guilty on all 3 counts. We, of course, are going to get reaction from defense attorneys, from the prosecutors, and we'll have the very latest for you on this case coming up in just about 2 hours on WPBF 25 News at 4 o'clock.
All right, everybody. WPBF 25 News if you need a source. Going to go to my community page and put up some polls pertaining to this information. Woo! Wow. What do you say after that? This is about the 40-year sentence. Please take the poll. Oh, wow. Only 2 options, yes and no. Do you agree with 40-year sentence of Tim Ferritter for child abuse? Okay. Then I'm also going to ask you about, how do you feel about the boy not blaming the parents? That's a deep statement. That would be just an open comment box. You just can give your comment. I didn't give you an option or anything on that. Let me see what I can find else about this. This is very strange to me. One moment, everybody. Timothy Ferritter found guilty of abusing his adopted teenage son by locking him in a box-like room in his Jupiter garage for nearly 2 weeks. Lawyers for Ferritter tried to convince jurors that he struggled to deal with an adoptive child with early childhood trauma and an attachment disorder from his infancy in an orphanage. Jurors found Ferritter guilty of aggravated child abuse, false imprisonment, neglect of a child. 3 counts, everybody. He has been taken into custody. Okay, just trying to get a little more information about really how long they had the kid. That's really what I was wanting. The child was locked in a windowless 8x8 box in the family's garage, allegedly for over 10 hours a day for years. And this is the crazy part. If this started for years, and that means he would have been, as they said in this commentary I just brought you, a middle schooler. So maybe the mindset was not to go tell anybody as having fear. I get sent back to these people. Don't nobody believe me. You always have to think like think like a child would think. Because many people just don't tell on their abusers, even when they're grown. So we're talking about for years, it says. Allegedly for 10 hours a day, 4 years. So that's bad. Because I thought somebody said he was only in the box for a month, from December to January. So I'm confused. According to Law and Crime, Timothy Ferritter was found guilty, 1 count of each aggravated child abuse, false imprisonment, neglect of a child on Thursday. Jury deliberated approximately 4.5 hours before reaching a guilty verdict. Tim's face was blank as the verdict was read. Wife Tracy Ferritter, who stands accused of the same charges, cried behind him. Palm Beach County jurors listened to 7 days of testimony, according to ABC affiliate WPBF, including hours of video footage from a Ring camera that revealed the inside of the small structure in which the boy had only a bucket for a toilet. WPBF previously reported footage showed Tim cursing at the teen and throwing things around the room. He also reportedly threatened to keep the boy in the box much more in the future if he continued to act out in school. The box inside the garage of Ferritter's Florida home was first discovered after the teen ran away in January 22. So now we have the source of how all this came to fruition. Police had already been alerted about the room by contractors who built it. See, that's another question I had. The people who built it, did they ever go to the police to say we've built a makeshift box in a garage for some reason or other? So let's ask that question. If you reported this, how soon did the police go out to the house? What was the reasoning that the family gave for the box? Because if they had the bed in there in a bucket, I would use discretion as an officer. Oh, well, somebody's sleeping in here, and who might that be? From the outside of the house, it looks like a nice house. From what they showed, just a little bit of the facade of the house, How many bedrooms did they have? Those will be the questions I'm asking the parents. How many people live here? How many people live in a house? Do you have children? Do you have pets? Who's sleeping in this damn box? If there was no bed in there, they could make up any old story and just say, oh, it's just going to be a room for the kids to play music in. So what was in the room when the police first went out to the house to see and inspect the box? What was in the box? Because they said police had already been alerted about the room by the contractors who built it. Once authorities found the boy, he allegedly told cops it was where he was confined for anywhere up to 16 to 18 hours. So that means what? They never went to see about the room, except for one time. Was the boy in the room when they went there? Because they said once authorities found the boy, he told them he was confined for anywhere up to 16, 18 hours. So what happened? Ring, 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 bang, 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 knock on the door, they come in, they tell them why they're there. They ask, where's the child, boy? How many children you got? Let me see the rooms. Did they go through the house, search all the rooms, then go into the garage? Did they go in on first round and found the boy inside of the box? How did it happen? Because I'd like to know. I didn't follow the trial, so I'm sure most of that was already answered. According to evidence presented during trial, per Law and Crime, the teen was previously locked in a similar structure in the family's former Arizona home. So now we're talking about two states with crimes. Now let's go there. Could they be brought up on child abuse charges from Arizona? Ding, 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 ding. Because now you're talking about state-to-state abuse. And why did they move to Florida? Job opportunities, or somebody was being a nosy Parker back in Arizona? And they up and left. See, I don't know. Just asking questions. They said similar structure in the family's former Arizona home started when he was 11. Now, remind you, the boy is 16. And they got arrested last year, 22. So that's at least, what, 5 years? Okay. Because if he's 16, this started at 11. That's 5 years. So at least 4 years of abuse, at least. The boy allegedly had no other bedroom in either home. Now we have a major problem. This sounds like some Ruby Frankie BS going on here. They let their child sleep in an open room for 7 months on a bean bag. Ruby and Kevin Frankie. Mr. Kevin Frankie, who wants to act like he knows nothing about any abuse in his house, although he was married to the heathen for God knows how many years. Now we have this couple moving from state to state, and the child ain't had a bedroom in Arizona or Florida. Stay woke. So this is your punishment for a wayward child. Just what? Sleep in the day room, the den, a closet. See, he was in the closet at one time because I heard that the other day. He was asked in court, how did you know that a contractor built the box? His reply to the attorney was, I overheard my dad talking to the contractor while I was in the closet. What the fuck are we talking about here? And which closet was that? Living room closet? The contractor's in the house talking to him. So he's explaining to him what his needs are. Hey, I need you to build me a structure in my garage. So the boy is in a closet where? In the living room, hallway closet, bedroom closet, that he could overhear this conversation. This is messed up here. I don't care what the little boy was doing, because children can be problems. See, everything depends on your perception. That's what I keep trying to tell people about life. You can meet people all day and think they're the nicest people, but that's not who they are behind closed doors. People treat their children differently. People treat their adoptive foster care children differently than their own. A child could have been wayward walking into this house. Then he could have been mistreated all his life, and then he gets with these people. He can't adjust well with them. They're not vibing well. Boom, the bomb set off. So you don't know because you're not there. He was adopted. That's problem number one. How he was treated to get adopted, to go into foster care, so on and so forth. The obvious stuff. Okay? This is bad. Ooh, this is bad. Lord have mercy. Let me finish reading this nonsense. Okay. Once again, he didn't have a home in either, he didn't have a bedroom in either home, Arizona or Florida. Timothy Tracy Ferreter, both 48, were arrested in Jupiter, Florida, February 22. That's a year and a half ago, almost coming up 2 years. Earlier this month, Ferreter's son testified in court about the conditions inside the 8x8 structure he was kept in. The boy, who has not been named and was fortunate at the time of his parents' arrest in 2022, took the stand in the case against his father. While he described him as treatment as dehumanizing, he also said he believed his parents made a mistake and others should forgive them and move on. Why would a child say, I forgive them and move on? As you heard in the audio I played you, he feels like the parents only responded to his behavior. They are not to blame for locking him in a box. So he's basically admitting he was a wayward child. He acted out, acting out in school, so on and so forth. The Ferreter son testified the windowless 8x8 room was built inside the garage. The structure had a twin mattress on a concrete floor, no windows, both an air conditioner and lights he couldn't control. He said the boy claimed he was sometimes kept in total darkness with locks on the outside preventing him from leaving on his own. He had a bucket for my urine and feces and that was it, he added, saying the room would sometimes smell putrid. He also claimed he received water occasionally, but not on a regular basis. Excuse me. When asked by prosecutors how being in the room made him feel, he said, to me, being locked in a room is dehumanizing. It's almost as bad as genocide. It's saddening to abuse a child that was just acting like a child. He also said he would be put into the room by physical force if he resisted, and claimed his father once smacked him in the face and would spank him with a jump rope or belt while yelling. Wow. During the trial, the defense said Tim and his wife had to make tough choices about their son due to his behavioral issues. According to WPTV, Dr. Sheila Rapper, a witness for the defense, testified that the teen suffers from reactive attachment disorder, a condition in which a child doesn't form a healthy emotional bond with their parents or guardians. Tim's defense attorney, Priya Murad, argued that Tim's behavior was simply a case of bad parenting, but didn't rise to the level of criminal, saying that the room was used for monitoring the child. Bad parenting does not mean that a person should be charged with a crime, said Murad. It makes them human. It makes them a parent who is trying to figure out when faced with a child who has consistent and escalating behavioral issues, how to handle them. On Thursday, Murad said they were shocked by the verdict and planned to appeal. How the fuck can you be shocked? You're locking a child in a closet. You're not making any damn sense. You have to say these things because you want to try to make these people seem like human beings to 12 members of the jury, but you cannot, even if those 12 members are just as wacky and jacked up as the damn father and the mother. You know it's not right to lock a child in a box or closet. Making them urinate and defecate in a bucket. No lights, no air conditioning. No water, no food, no snacks, no interaction, no cell phone, no data, no nothing. Come on now. They should have sought an alternative method. But this is what happens with people like the Ferreters. They don't want to accept defeat. They don't want people to know they failed at parenting. So had they sent the boy off or gave him back to the state, they would be judged. Oh my God, you sent that boy back after you adopted him? This is why adopted children end up dead. Please pay attention. Let me say this again. This is why adopted children end up dead. The people do not want to accept defeat that they could not parent the child. They don't want to be judged by people that they took the child in, adopted him, and then sent them back to the state or handed them over to somebody else. So we knocked the kid off. Just like this mess with Ruby Frankie. These are our own damn kids. Starving your own damn kids. You think your child's going to live and you're starving them? Come on now. This is bullshit. I don't care if he was wayward. There's no excuse for this because there are alternative methods. They could have sent him to a camp, or they could have gave him back to the state. Either one. Or juvenile. Take your pick. Boarding school. Take your pick. Once again, Murad said they were shocked by the verdict, planned to appeal. We're devastated at what happened. This is a man and a wife and a family and no criminal record. And he's lost his children. And we really believe some of the rulings were unfair to the defense, she said. Yeah, this lady, she's a whack job too. Following Thursday's guilty verdict, Tim was handcuffed, taken to jail. He faces up to 30 years in prison, and his sentencing is scheduled for November 16th. Tim previously turned down a 2-year plea deal. Let's talk about that. Timothy. Why would you turn down a 2-year plea deal? More than likely, you have gotten what? 2 years, possibly let go after a year doing time. What? 5 years probation, something like that? You're a narcissist. That's why you're where you're at now. So you have forfeited 2 years and possibly 5 years of probation to now face 40 years inside of a damn prison. And you're a pretty boy. Let me say that. You are a pretty white boy. Got your hair all coiffed up with gel and shit. You ain't going to be using that where you're going. How about that? They like your kind in there. They like them boys that take care of themselves. Oh, yes. Pretty skin, pretty hair, long hair, short hair. You think them boys in prison ain't been watching you sit there in trial? They already know he going to be coming right here where we at. And he likes to wear hair gel, hairspray. I love it. You're a narcissist. You're a sociopath. You've been a sociopath for some time. So I have to ask, how were you raised? Who raised you? Who was the matriarch in your family? Or the patriarch? Who was the head knocker in the Ferreter household? 1 parent, 2 parent, mean parents, strict parents, abusive parents, volatile parents, drunks. What are we talking about? Because we know that this behavior comes from somewhere. You just don't wake up one day locking children in boxes. You don't wake up one day not allowing a child to have a bed. Even the worst of a child has a bed. And we know this from watching people who enable their badass kids. Spoiling them rotten, buying them everything, doing everything for them, bailing them out of trouble, bailing them out of jail. They're grown still, living with their parents, wayward as fuck. Still making excuses for grown-ups that do whatever they want. Don't work, get high, drink, smoke, make babies. Irresponsible adults living with their parents. One thing begets another. So how did you treat your other children? Did the other children get along with this boy child? What is wrong with the boy child? Definitively. What is on record? Bipolar. Alternate personalities. What are we saying? Once again, he turned down a 2-year plea. Tracy's trial was set to begin late last month, but they were later canceled. According to Law and Crime per Palm Beach County Court records, her trial has yet to be rescheduled. 8x8 room. Did not have a bed for the child in the Arizona home or this Florida home. Did not have a room. So this is where you get your proof of abuse ongoing. TwoFab.com is the source of this information. If you are curious, this gave us a lot of information here. This was uploaded 10/14 of last week. This is bad. Yeah, exactly, hippie. You have to count what a child came from. It's not saying a child cannot be, what are the words I'm looking for? Treated for whatever is going on with him or her, but somebody has to know who to contact. But you exacting abuse against an abused child makes no damn sense. You're now becoming what they've already endured. They're acting out for a reason because they have been abused. You have to count genetics. If the child has mental disabilities, all that is the reason why we all act the way we act. Come on now. So what is the age that they adopted the boy child? And this is what we've learned with children. They can be severely abused by their parents or guardians, and they still favor them, still want to live with them. This boy probably wanted to still be with his parents if he was at an age to where he could recognize his parents. And as you see here, he is now a teenager, and he doesn't even blame these people for putting him in a box. He says it's dehumanizing, genocide. So he's very smart and articulate, because I heard him speak briefly in court audio. So one thing it is, he's a free thinker. He's not, I don't think, a dodo bird. He's not what people classified as dumb or slow, but just has some issues, whatever they are. Will he get help? Whoever has him, are they seeking help? Because it will be a tragedy to later hear he will become just like these people and the people who had him before. This is why we have crime, you see. One thing begets another. This is sad. And we keep hearing these horrible stories about foster care children, adoptive children, how things go terribly awry when they get to the house where they're allegedly supposed to be loved and taken care of, looked after. I think a lot of people don't have business being parents, because this is what I'm going to say to anybody, or to the viewing audience rather. If you can abuse one child, whether it's yours or not, kill a child, you're not fit. Because you know there's no excuse for abusing a child. It doesn't matter if the child's wayward, you don't like what they're saying to you, you don't like how they're reacting to what you're saying or doing, they don't want to do what they're told. There's still no reason to beat a kid, torture a kid, lock a kid up, kill a kid, starve a kid. So my thing is, if you do it to a child that doesn't belong to you by birth, you would still do it to yours if you had given birth or procreated them. Well, what's the difference? Child's a child. But we see that people do choose how to treat children differently depending on if they gave birth to them or not. As we heard with the West family, she let that be known, Jackie, to the detectives. He ain't mine. They ain't mine. It's different. Well, Heifer, it was different. And why did you foster them? Why did you adopt them? You know yourself better than anybody. I tell this to everybody. You know you better than anybody knows you. And if you think for a minute you're going to treat your children different than your foster children, adopted children, then you don't have no business fostering or adopting children. Point damn blank. These people are no different. Because we have to ask what kind of people they are. Because let me tell you something, people put on different faces for the public. Walk around acting sanctified, Christian-like, upholding great positions in life and jobs. Everybody's laughing it up with them, drinking it up. Oh, he's a great guy. She's a great mom. But then behind closed doors, they're fussing and fighting, getting turned up. They're tyrants. They got their kids cleaning floors with toothbrushes and that shit. But that ain't what they go out in public and tell people, oh, yeah, I make my kids scrub the floor with the toothbrush. I do a fine check after they dust the tables and everything. I run my finger over to make sure there isn't any dust. Who's going to go out in the public and tell that? Nobody. But we learned that with Ruby Frankie. She was a nut, clean nut. Down on the floor, scrubbing the floor with her children, showing the people in the video how she got the kids scrubbing the floor. I don't want to see your damn kids down on the floor scrubbing a damn towel. How is this entertaining? It's not. It was entertaining for her. And she said it out of her own mouth. She liked the way she made her nephew feel less than. Making them stand in line just to get a banana. That's because you had so many damn kids. I guess they did have to stand in damn line. Just a baby making machine, Ruby Frankie. Yeah, I'm saying that. That's all she was good for, lying on her back. A baby maker. Just a little Skittles machine. Yeah, I'm saying it. Kind of like those machines you see at the grocery store. Bubblegum machines, put a quarter in and get a piece of gum out. That's Ruby Frankie. She don't know anything. She knows how to have sex and put on red lipstick. Just a nasty old heathen. Dirty old bat. Her and Jody Hildebrandt. So you see, We go from one side of the country to the other. Utah, Arizona, Florida. Don't you see a connection in all these stories? They're eerily similar. Demographics the same. You know, I could throw up if I hear one more story of abuse coming out of Utah. All these people are touched down in the same states. Lori Vallow Daybell, she's been in Arizona, Utah. Stay woke. Exactly. People only share what they want that appears to be good about them. And that's the whole point, that when you meet people, they don't tell you their dirty secrets. They don't tell you their innermost thoughts about how they feel about themselves and how they feel about their kids, their husband or wives. I don't have to tell you that, hey, sometimes my kids make me sick, or I don't really like my children. Who's going to come out in public and say, you know what, I really hate my eldest child. I like my two young ones, but I don't like the eldest one. Who is going to tell that? If they do, they'll tell it to maybe a confidant, but not the general public. So people meet them and see them. Oh, she seems so nice. And, oh, but they really don't know. These people are horrible. I know somebody personally in my own family. She was a living fraud. Walking out in public, people thinking she's this great person in the community, always volunteering with the community, well known as a volunteer, but little did they know she didn't even have a good relationship with her own grown-ass children or her own grandchildren. Why not? But people didn't know that because she didn't talk about it. Never visited by the grandkids. She never called them, checked on them, nothing. But you see her in the community, she's helping everybody else. And there was one grandchild through life she helped out as the child got older, like way older, middle-aged damn near. But just that one for some reason. But that's the same one she criticized all the time too. Now, put that on paper. See, a lot of people treat people the way they were treated. I won't doubt that Mr. Farrader probably had a very strict parent, mother or father. So he learned by example. So he's leading by example, rather. Did the boy child ever tell anybody outside of the house he was being abused? What were his problems? What was he doing exactly at the schoolhouse? How many reprimands did he receive from the schoolhouse in Florida and also Arizona? Did the parents ever try to talk to the parents? Did the teachers, ever try to talk to the parents about a resolution or what was wrong with the child? Did they ever take the child for therapy? Did they seek therapy for the boy child? If so, how many times? But see, you can see that these people are they're demented as what they think this boy was. Because the fact that he didn't even have a damn room, what the hell are you saying? So how did he change his clothes? Where did he sleep at night? This is bad. Bad, bad, bad. How are you going to have a child with no damn bedroom? So what? He's sleeping on the couch, the floor, what? Then you hear there was a mat on the floor in this makeshift box, 8x8. You were too honored not to even get him a twin-size frame to put the damn mattress on. A mattress and a bucket. Now, I want you to think about that. While you're sitting in your cushy house, apartment, condo, trailer, whatever you live in, and you imagine at the end of the night when it's time for you to go to sleep, that you're now lying on a mat on the floor, 8x8, with just a bucket. And he also said the bucket smelled. Imagine having to smell your own fecal matter and urine day for day. And I also learned through the court audio that they were leaving him in the box an extra hour per day. One day it started out at 10. Next time it was 11 hours. Next time it was 13 hours. Only letting him out to go to school. Why? So you wouldn't be reprimanded by the school district for not allowing your child to go to school, child being tardy, so on and so forth. Because a lot of states now fine you for not sending your kids to school and or jail. Maybe Florida is the same. No, he got to go to school. We ain't going to jail for not sending him to school. But we will lock him in a box when he returns. How convenient. What did the other children have to say if they had other kids in the house about locking their sibling up in a damn box? Hey, where's Mikey? Oh, he's in the box in the garage. Can't go out there and play with him. He's a bad boy. So now you're teaching your children to be disloyal, hateful. This is what I don't understand about people. How can you mistreat a child, number one? Two, you're doing it with eyewitnesses, other children. And then we've seen other kids join in on the bullshit. They'll pick and bully the other child. Because we know that most parents have a favorite. Who was their favorite? Who has the children now? Are they older, grown? Any of them school age? If so, who are raising them? Possibly the mother, or were all children removed from their custody when this boy was found? I would assume the state removed all the children when they removed him as well. So you don't know people. I see all kind of stories that are not just, on the news, but just in living, being around people in general. And you'd be surprised the stories that the Queen could tell you of how people mistreat their children and then expect them to have respect for them when they're older. Expect them to be helpful. Why would they? Choosing drugs and alcohol over raising the children. Choosing to run the streets over raising the children. Choosing other men, women over their children. And then you're surprised you don't have a good relationship with your child when they're grown. Well, why would you have a good relationship? But another thing I've also seen is people trying to make it work with their trifling ass parents while they're older, knowing the parents really don't deserve any of their time. But you have some people who are forgiving. That's why they say children are resilient, because children can put up with things that adults can't put up with. And this is one of those type of things. Being abused and not even blaming the parents for abusing you. But let's just pray he keeps that same mindset. Well, see, that's the whole point, Hippie. If he didn't tell anybody, nobody was going to know. He ran away, so that was the start of getting justice for him. Because that's why I said the first time that he became locked in a box, I don't know if it was here or Arizona or what, he should have told somebody. If he was just getting mistreated in Arizona, he should have told somebody, hey, they're not treating me well. Hey, I'm not getting along with my parents. You should have talked to somebody. But that's the whole point. Children don't tell others how they're being treated. Or if indeed he was a problem child, he's not going to go admit to another teacher, oh yeah, I'm a bad kid and my parents are doing this and this to me in retaliation. That's the sad information about the Ferreters. No court date has been set yet for the mother. But when I get that information, I will bring you an update. Please take the polls on my community page pertaining to this storyline and other breaking news. My next subject matter is pertaining to Caitlin Armstrong. She's been a very, very bad girl. This is the love triangle coming out of Texas, where she was messing around with a man who was also messing around with another female, and she could not accept that these two were messing around, and she exacted revenge, says the state, and she went and murdered this woman in cold blood and went on the run, finally found in another country, extradited back to the United States, and now, voila, Caitlin says, the hell with that, I want out of here. I don't want to be in jail. I got to go. So she takes off for running. But she was apprehended. Let's get to that content, everybody. One moment, please. Thank you for joining me. You are listening to the Vault XL.
To announce that Caitlin Armstrong was captured on June 29th by foreign officials in the Republic of Costa Rica, where she was detained on an immigration violation and deported back to the United States on July 2nd. On July 5th, the Austin Police Department extradited Armstrong from the Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas, to the Travis County Jail here in Austin, Texas, following a 43-day fugitive investigation.
Now to what's trending in true crime, my friends. Oh, Caitlin Armstrong is back in the headlines this morning after police say she tried to escape their custody in Texas on Wednesday. We've got the video of it. Look at this. In this video that was taken by Teresa Rangel, Armstrong can be seen running. Look at her in her prison garb, running toward a fence. Police chasing behind her. Officers eventually were able to catch up with her and then take her back into custody. All after several minutes of chasing the accused killer. She was brought back in. And as we remember, let's go back to June of 2022. That's when this all happened. The first time she was taken into custody, that was after being on the run for a month. She was grabbed in Costa Rica. This following the death of Mariah Wilson. Caitlin Armstrong is facing a first-degree murder charge. In that case, her trial is set for October 30th. So this morning, we're asking our legal eagles, is Armstrong going to face more charges? Got a great panel joining me this morning. Still with me, trial attorney and law professor Dante Mills, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Joe Tamburino, and criminal defense attorney Michael J. Brown. Good morning to you all. Thanks for being with us. Joe Tamburino, would you start us off, please? What do you think?
Yeah, she's going to be facing more charges. There's no doubt about that. Additionally, we all talk about, the consciousness of guilt, and a lot of that plays into criminal trials. And I'm sure the prosecutor is going to use that in this kind of a situation. Additionally, there's the whole ruse of it all, which is, she was supposed to go on this medical appointment. Who knows if that was even valid or true? And then she splits. So, yeah, that's going to come up in her trial.
Right. I mean, did she think they wouldn't catch her? Oh, Michael J. Brown, what are your thoughts on this morning, please?
Good morning, Julie. Yeah, the prosecutor is going to be salivating at this type of evidence. You have her literally running from correction officers. You have a caption on a video. As Joe said, this is what we call consciousness of guilt. It's actually a jury charge in New York where the judge can instruct the jury that you can infer a guilty conscience from those actions, and it's coupled with her fleeing initially in the investigation to Costa Rica. So you put those two things together, juries really look and frown down upon that type of conduct, and they definitely use it in their evaluation.
Oh, you're absolutely right, Michael. Yeah, it's like the judge now has two reasons to grant that instruction for the state of Texas, the flight in Costa Rica and then the flight in Texas. Dante Mills, last but not least, tell me what you're thinking, please.
It's a little difficult, but I'm going to take the other side on this one because of your amazing show.
No, we love it. We love that.
This is the second time that she tried to escape. She even had plastic surgery that shows the length she would go to. She also led these police officers on a 10-minute chase that shows she's still in shape from being a yoga instructor. But here's what I would say if I'm faced with that jury charge and these facts. I would say, listen, she didn't believe in the system. She felt she was being treated unfairly, that she wouldn't have a fair opportunity to present her case, that everybody treated her like she was guilty, and she felt like she had no choice but to try and get away because she did not believe that she would get a fair trial, and she didn't believe in the system. That's the only really argument that you can make when you have someone on video running away from officers.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up, Dante. Thank you for that. I want to pick all of your brains some more about this because now her attorneys, they're waking up this morning going, oh my gosh, did you have to run? So she's been in custody since June of 2022. She was on the run, as we know, prior to that, after the death of Mariah Wilson. When she was initially arrested, U.S. Marshals, they got her, and U.S. Marshal Brandon Filla was asked to describe Armstrong's demeanor after they grabbed her up. Let's take a look at what he said.
All right, brief intermission. Great point, Hippie. Were the other children afraid of the Faraders? Could be. We don't know the dynamics between them and the other children, but good point.
demeanor after they grabbed her up. Let's take a look at what he said.
How was her attitude? Did she seem compassionate? Did she seem sorry? Or?
Speaking with the foreign nationals there in Costa Rica, I'd say she was exhausted. You could tell eventually, when she was encountered by uniformed officers in Costa Rica, she didn't give her true identity at first. But when she was taken into custody and questioned, minutes later, then she finally confessed to her true identity. So I think that was her beginning to come forward, but it took a little bit of time.
Oh, okay. So she's not helping herself out here. So with this new attempt, what are these attorneys going to have to do? Because we know the prosecutors are going to say flight as consciousness of guilt, as my esteemed guests have said this morning. Let me bring them back in. Joe Tamburino, back to you on this one, putting on your criminal defense attorney hat and dovetailing off of what Dante started us with here. What are the defense attorneys going to try to do to combat this, please?
Well, what they'll likely do is get some type of mental health evaluation because, if the facts aren't on your side, and in this case, they clearly aren't, and you've got aberrant behavior that you have to explain, you're going to have to get some type of an evaluation because if something comes out of that you could use, you'll use it. If not, well, then you're just going to have to deal with the cards that you've been given.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Mental health evaluation, good place to start. Michael J. Brown, tell us what, if anything, you have to add to that, please.
Well, I agree with the professor in the sense that when somebody flees like that, you have them dead to rights, so to speak, you have to explain it. And the reason being is, hey, I don't have faith in the system and I had no alternative but to flee. The difference, I think, here is initially I get that explanation when she went to Costa Rica because you don't know how people react when they're under suspicion for something they say they didn't do. But now you're in custody and we see it on the screen. I mean, she's doing a 50-yard sprint here. It's a tough one. And it's definitely different than like the OJ case, for instance. Again, initially where the allegation pops up, this is much further down the road in terms of time. It's problematic for the defense.
Definitely is. Well said, Michael. Dante Mills, take us home if you would, please, my friend. Your final thoughts on this point. What more can the defense team do for Caitlin Armstrong?
Listen, Hail Mary, because this is a very difficult case. Hail Mary is maybe try to get that video kept out somehow. Where the jury does not see her making that 50-yard dash and leaping for the fence in prison clothes. Honestly, this is a very tough case, and she made it even tougher for herself. We can try and be defense attorneys and say, she didn't believe in the system, she felt trapped, that kind of stuff. But, even get a mental health evaluation. But we would have to show that her time in prison, when she was under observation, that she was doing things that show mental health issues. You can't just say, I had a burst of mental health, a lapse when I decided to run, but otherwise I've never shown anything for this over a year period when I was in custody. So it's a very tough case, and she made it even tougher. As her defense attorneys, I'm shaking my head and asking for a bigger retainer.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. They deserve it, definitely, with this client. Dante Mills, Michael J. Brown, wonderful having you both. I know you have to get off to court. Joe Tamburino, we're having you stick around for a little while. Thank you for that. We're going to hit a break, friend.
All right, everybody. Court TV. So, as far as a retainer, does she have a private attorney or a public defender? Since they're making jokes about paying a bigger retainer for an attorney. Was she appointed a lawyer by the court, or she had money to hire an attorney? I guess it will be a problem for the defense to say why she tried to run this time, although she has possibly laid low in the jail for a year, not making any attempts. I think she made an attempt because the opportunity was there. That's usually why most people run. They saw an opportunity to run or they planned it, knowing the layout of the jail, the routine of the guards, learning the behaviors of the guards. If they're out on the yard, if they're out for an hour or whatever to do their exercise, walk, whatever, they knew the perimeter, how it looked, the chances of getting away, the fact that she was, in physical shape when she got to the prison. I don't know if she's put on a little weight, since being in jail, because most people do gain weight because they're not, as active as they would be when they're free. So maybe she was watching everything when she got there and she took the opportunity when it arose, or she just decided on that day. I do not know. But I know it's going to be hard to try to explain running. You have a mental defect because you already went on the run after allegedly killing this lady. And they're going to say, this is who she is. She's a runner. She doesn't like to abide by rules of the law. She's already killed a lady. We've got proof to show she killed a lady. Then she went to a foreign country, lived under an assumed name, sold her car, took monies with her, and got plastic surgery done. This is a woman who did not want to be apprehended. As far as not being treated fairly by the media, social media, the courts, whomever, that's not going to mean anything. Because if they can show that you killed the person, they're going to say, well, you ran because you didn't want to get caught. You didn't want to do your time. And she knows what she did. If indeed they have strong evidence against her killing this woman, which I'm sure they do, because people don't think when they're out planning and plotting murders. She ran because she did not want to go to jail for this crime. And I'm trying to understand, how is it that she was able to even run? Because she could have made it over that fence. Because the fence, it wasn't a real high fence, but it was, let's say, low enough for her to try to scale it. She's in some good enough shape to even be able to jump up on the wooden fence. Very interesting information. Let's talk about the boyfriend for a minute. Thank you all so much for joining me. Where is the boyfriend, the ex? How long were they together? How long was he with the other girl? I brought you this content over a year or so ago, so please refer back to that video pertaining to the timeline of the events of how all these people became entangled with one another. How long was he dating each woman? At the same time, my understanding, the victim wasn't dating him. They were just friends, went out for lunch, and this is what set off this heathen here. Lunch or dinner, she saw them together, I believe. Did the victim know about Caitlin? What was told to the victim about Caitlin from the boyfriend? How long did Caitlin know about the victim? How does he feel now with Caitlin being apprehended and now this new attempt to escape? Would he fear for his safety, that she would try to get out and harm him? And my thing is, if she would kill this girl that he was dating, messing around with, whatever the arrangement was, did he not think that she could have also killed him? I wonder, does he ever think about that? Who would date him? Let's talk about that. Who would date this man knowing he has this entanglement, likes to sleep around with women at the same time, probably was lying to both. One ends up dead. The other one goes on a run. Who would date this man? Would you date this man, a woman? You met him, got his bio, he starts talking to you about what happened in his past. Would you date him? I don't think he's dateable because this is deep. And although you do not control others' emotions, have control of other people's emotions, but one thing you know about him, he's not truthful. Some would say even deceitful, however you want to word it, but he's not truthful because that's what got him in this mess in the first place. One moment, please. What did he tell each about the other one? Because men have been known to cheat, and they do not always tell whom they're messing around with, for how long. May tell one, oh, I've stopped seeing her, but never stopped seeing the person. And I had heard from the family in commentary that they didn't believe she would even date a guy. She was even dating a man. And that's another thing that I found interesting. How do you know what she was doing in her private time, the victim? Just because she didn't tell you she was dating this man doesn't mean that she wasn't seeing him, whether it was sexually or whatever the arrangement was. Maybe she didn't want anybody to know. Maybe that's why she didn't want anyone to know, because she did know about Caitlin. Did that ever occur to any of you, friends and family, that she knew he had somebody else? was still entangled with somebody else. And she didn't want to come out and say, oh, yeah, I'm dating a guy who's also dating another lady. Because someone said that, oh, she wasn't dating anybody. I would know. You mean you think you would know? Or you thought you knew her? Obviously you didn't, because she's now dead by the hands of another woman, Caitlin Armstrong. That is what the state is alleging, that she shot this lady, killed this lady at her front door. So you obviously did not know your friend, your sister, whomever, because people don't tell people everything, their personal business, who they're dating, who they're sleeping with, all the personal things that go on in a person's life. You don't have to tell people. And maybe this lady was private in that area. She didn't want anyone knowing that she was dating this man for whatever reason. And he should feel some type of way. He should feel crummy as hell knowing I was messing around with Caitlin, tired of her, didn't really want to be with her, but felt obligated, because I think that's what was going on in their relationship. He felt obligated. So he was just really stringing her along, but possibly really liked this other girl, this other biker, cyclist or whatever. And look what happened. You see, this is what happens with deceit. People walking around using you, manipulating you, not being truthful about things, and then they bring in their garbage, their baggage into your life, and now you're sitting up here wrapped up in drama. This is what happens with many people. People can dupe you into their bullshit just by affiliation. And it's a sick thing to go out in life liking people, interested in them, and now you're duped into drama just because you met them. And I always advise people to run like hell, because it can save you in the end. People are going to assume what they want about a situation. They don't know what's the truth or not. But when you're dealing with an unleveled mind, you have situations like this. I just got a news break information. Actress Suzanne Summers is dead at 76. Lord have mercy. 76. Suzanne Summers has passed away at 76 years of age. I see this all the time. I remember there's a story out of North Carolina of a black man was a cop dating two women. One of the women was a dispatcher at the police station where he worked. Things didn't work out. Obviously, he was lying to the girl he was dating in a neighboring town in North Carolina. And the girl who was the dispatcher that it didn't work out with, she ended up hunting that other lady down and shot her at her apartment complex and fled away. So here we have a woman who had no idea, allegedly, that he was messing around with another woman. She's now dead. And then this girl's playing like, you know, she loved him, cared for him. He was deceitful. He lied, blah, blah, blah. And was allegedly a good girl. I believe she had a son, had a child. Bought a house near his. She was obsessed with him. Couldn't even afford the house. They said she didn't even have furniture in the house. Just bought a house just to be near her love interest. See how far a person can go in having feelings for somebody, obsession, whatever you want to call it. You know, it might have been just great sex. She thought she loved him. I don't know. We all have been guilty of thinking we cared for somebody and liked them when it was just great sex. Either way, the woman is dead. Had a lot of friends, went to a neighboring university, very popular in school, no longer alive, all because the guy she was dating was a liar and a cheat and a cop at that. So now we have one locked up and one dead, and where is he? See, that's what you need to think about, besides the death of the young lady. Where is the man at? And who's dating him and trusting him to do right by she? Because if you do it once, you'll do it again. So imagine dating somebody and you find out, oh, his last girlfriend got murdered by the other girl he was messing around with. That's a hell of a baggage to carry around, knowing you're the reason for the season, the death of another human being. Because you're a liar. You couldn't be truthful, and you couldn't keep your private parts in your britches. And a lot of people have left here because of this type of scenario. A liar, a cheater, a notorious cheater. You know, some men, they are known for cheating. And they don't care about the women finding out about the other one, fighting, fussing, threats, possibly a turn on to some of them. But how in the world could you be turned on by the death of somebody that you claim you loved? Because I believe it was portrayed that it was really serious between he and the victim. Well, it couldn't be that serious because you were sleeping around with this girl and maybe at some point you realized she was off her rocker, or you just decided to cut her loose and she did not want to let go. She did not want to let go. What a tragedy. Let me see if I can get some more information pertaining to Lori, because there was something about her mental state I wanted to mention during this live stream before I cut it loose. Thank you all so much for joining me on this wonderful Sunday in the High 10. Please check my community board for said polls, updates, and weekend movie, Best Friend, now playing on Tubi. Trying to get an update on this crazy thing. I thought I had saved the information, but obviously I did not. Everything's older. Wait a minute, everybody. So you have to be specific when you type in stuff because they'll show you things from years ago. Okay, here it is right here. He questions whether Daybell's right to a speedy trial was violated and why the court denied the defense's request in November 22 to send her back to a mental hospital. Did the government commit fundamental reversible error in its opening statement to the jury? The appeal asked. That's what I was looking for. Thank you all so much for joining me. Let me read you this quick information pertaining to Lori, and then I will check out of here, and then you all can rejoin me tonight for my commentary about Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith, commentary from Chris Rock pertaining to her talking about him. He doesn't want his name mentioned in her mouth. Very crazy nonsense. New book coming out on Tuesday, and also her interview with NBC. Thank you all so much for joining me. An attorney for Lori Daybell, the mother sentenced to multiple life sentences for murdering her children, filed an amended appeal Wednesday, asking for transcripts from 35 days over the course of her years-long legal proceedings. The transcripts include a motion hearing in August 2022, parts of the jury trial this past March, and the sentencing in July. The amended appeal filed by Craig H. Durham also asked for sealed mental health reports to be confidentially included in the clerk's record. Attorneys for Daybell initially filed the appeal on September 6, about a month after her July 31st sentencing, where she was given 3 life sentences in connection to the murder of her 2 youngest children, 16-year-old Tylee Ron and 7-year-old JJ Vallow, and Tammy Daybell, the spouse of Chad Daybell, whom she later married. The appeal lists 16 issues attorneys intend to raise. The first questioning if Vallow Daybell, after spending 10 months in a mental hospital, was competent to stand trial. Jim Archibald, Vallow Daybell's attorney at the time, claimed there were a number of issues during the trial, some revolving around Vallow Daybell's mental competency. He questions whether Vallow Daybell's right to a speedy trial was violated and why the court denied the defense's request in November 2022 to send her back to a mental hospital. Did the government commit fundamental reversible error in its opening statement to the jury? The appeal asks, did the court err in allowing the government to amend the grand jury indictment 2 years after the indictment was filed without sending the case back to the grand jury? Another bullet point reads, presumably referring to an error in the indictment related to the grand theft charge, an issue her attorneys raised several times during the trial. Another item in the appeal questions the court's decision to allow the jury to hear statements of co-conspirators, but then ruled in jury instructions that the government need not prove those persons were part of the conspiracy. Now, you also heard this a while back, too, during commentary. September 2019, Vallow Daybell's 2 children disappeared. Later discovered that they had been murdered, buried in a shallow grave behind the Rexburg home of Chad Daybell, the man she was believed to be having an affair with, and apparent source of her fringe religious beliefs. October 2019, Daybell's wife Tammy was killed by what investigators said was asphyxiation in her sleep, though at the time her death was ruled natural. Just 2 weeks later, while her children were still unaccounted for, Lori Vallow married Chad Daybell on a beach in Hawaii. That December, Tammy Daybell's body was exhumed and Tylee and JJ were declared missing. A court ordered Vallow Daybell to produce her children by January 30th, 2020. She was arrested in Hawaii about 4 weeks after she failed to comply. June 9th, 2020, police executed a search warrant and found the bodies of Tylee and JJ buried in Daybell's backyard. Chad Daybell was arrested that day. Nearly 3 years later, Vallow Daybell was found guilty on 6 counts. Vallow Daybell was given 3 consecutive life sentences in July for the murder. She also received 2 life sentences for conspiring to murder her children and 10 years for grand theft, with those prison terms running concurrently to the life sentences for the 3 murder convictions. Utah Today is the source. So we have a lot of legal wranglings pertaining to the grand jury, proving if other co-conspirators were involved, who they were, them testifying, not testifying, her mental competency, just a lot of BS. I don't know a lot of legal jargon. I want everything to go strictly by the book because you don't want to have problems like this, seeking an appeal because of her mental competency. I believe her statement to the court shows that she's aware of her faculties. This is the same person who denied in many phone conversations to her son, her friend, that she had nothing to do with the children's disappearance, didn't know anything. Then the next minute she's saying she knows they're okay, you don't know anything, and now it's they're all together in heaven playing together. There's nothing wrong with Lori. She conspired to kill her children, ordered to hit on her children, was possibly there when the children were murdered. Her brother and Chad, all in sync with her, ordered to produce the children, never did. Never spoke to the court to say, yeah, this is where they are. I know where they are. They're zombies, this and that. Just a bunch of BS. See, she talked a lot about these people because she knew she was conspiring to kill them ahead of time. That's why you have all this commentary repeated in court by witnesses. That this one didn't act right. This one didn't act right. She had something to say about all the people. The husband was mean, ill. The children were zombies. Because this is what they had already planned out, was to get rid of all these people. Telling the son in jailhouse conversations, you don't know nothing, you don't know where they're at, you don't know this, I know what happened, blah, blah, blah. So how can you be 1 minute, they're zombies, then they're dead, missing and dead, then found dead. Then you're telling the son, you don't know what happened, I know the truth. That shows that you're aware of your faculties. I know where they are, I know what happened, you weren't there. So that means you're putting yourself there when you say you weren't there. If I say you weren't there, am I speaking in general terms? You weren't there when whatever happened to them, or I'm basically telling on myself, yeah, I was there and you weren't. Which is it? I think we know it's the latter. She was there. And then she gives this half-baked ass speech talking about, you know, Jesus, Jesus Christ superstar, and all this religious talk. They're all happy. They're this. Well, let you tell if they were zombies. So how were zombies happy? And when did God start letting zombies come into heaven? Now, he's a favorable God. Maybe he likes zombies in heaven. Maybe I should take that back. The point being, you're all over the place. Because this is what happens when you make up stuff. You forget about what you have told people. 1 minute you've told people before death that they were zombies. Then they end up missing. Then a year later, they're found deceased, chopped up, melted down. Okay? A lady's body is exhumed. She's now deemed a homicide. Then you finally go to court, decide to speak after the state has rested, the defense has rested. Now they're all in heaven together. So which is it? I know what happened to them. They're zombies. I didn't kill them. I didn't hurt them. But they're all in heaven together. And now Tammy's her good friend. My friend Tammy. Don't you see what's happening here? It's just like with the West trial. You wait until after the state is rested, defense rested, or you've gotten a guilty verdict. Now you want to speak as if you have no involvement in the deaths of the people, the children. There's nothing wrong with Lori because she did too much to show that she was lucid at the time of the deaths of the people, the children, Tammy, taking in funds, transferring of funds. You're lucid. You know exactly what you're doing. And too many people are dead to say, oh, I was having a mental breakdown. I'm schizophrenic. I was going through this, and this. It's too well articulated, I'm sure, to even be considered a schizophrenic. She knows exactly what she did to these people. And that's just the bottom line. And she married this man shortly after the death of his wife, Tammy. They married, they ordered dresses, rings, this and that. Things that's just too articulated, too meticulous, too planned, well out. Never talking to people about where these people were, the children. Ignoring all calls, conversations pertaining to the children. It's orchestrated, deliberate. Defying police instructions. Well, she had no choice because the children were dead. She couldn't produce them. All this was orchestrated from the death of Charles to the children to Tammy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Also the attempt on Mr. Boudreau's life, her niece's then husband. All orchestrated. Too many dead people, too many attempts on lives, and they're all related to Lori. She is the common denominator. That's the point of the story. Knocking off anybody that was in her peripheral that she wanted to get rid of. I no longer want to be bothered with these people. I no longer want to engage with these people. I want them gone. How in the world could somebody contest the judge's ruling that she was competent to stand trial when she was? Her actions showed that she was aware of her faculties. Because there are too many people dead. And there's no way you can explain that many deaths around one human being. You know, we're not talking about a car accident. Somebody died from cancer. And they can be proven cancer, proven car wreck. She's aware of what she has done. She conspired to kill these people with Chad and her brother, also her niece, and also, I believe, the brother's wife. And those two women should be also brought up on charges. I believe they were given immunity. The wife of her brother, I'm not really sure about the niece, but she should be brought up on charges as well. The niece, you have left that Mohican out, and she needs to be brought up on charges as well. There's nothing wrong with Lori Vallow Daybell. Now, as far as all these other wranglings with grand jury instructions and not proving who said what as a co-conspirator, I don't know all about that. All that legal stuff. But I do believe the judge made the right decision by pressing forward and sending her to trial. Well, people do happy. That's the whole point of getting married. I don't have the children to contend with, to be worried about. And fraud, let's bring that up. They also committed fraud. He got money for his wife, insurance, gave some of the money to his children. And she also got money from policies, I'm assuming with Charles, monies for the children, taking their monies into her account because the daughter was receiving Social Security benefits and the boy was receiving benefits too, if I'm not mistaken. So see, it's all orchestrated. You're not transferring and not know what you're doing. You're transferring the funds for a reason. Because you know the daughter wasn't around to contest anything. So I also wonder what you're going to keep that truck of the daughter's. Continue paying the note on it or send the truck back. And then naturally, as I just said, there are going to be people asking questions about the children. Her son will be asking about the children. JJ's grandparents will be asking, can we talk to him? Can we see him? Can we video chat? How long is that going to go on? You ignoring these people and not producing the children. And that was her downfall. Somebody came a-looking. Somebody came questioning. And she knew she could not keep up the facade. And that's why she is where she is. And all the chipperness, smiley faces in court, the swinging of the hair, rocking. She knows exactly what she has done pertaining to her family members being deceased. And Tammy, she knows because she orchestrated all of these murders. And Chad went along with the program as well. And I don't know whose idea it was to kill Tammy, but I won't doubt he came up with the idea. They all conspired together. So in the end, it doesn't matter who came up with the idea to kill whom first. They're all in it together. Now, will he testify in his own defense, Mr. Daybell? Will he implicate Lori as the ringleader orchestrator, that he was just following her instructions? The fact that he wants cameras in the courtroom is very interesting to me. Will the judge abide by his request? And I'm assuming the defense's request. Why does he want cameras? Why would a man who doesn't speak, doesn't talk, doesn't give any public interviews, private interviews, why would he want cameras in the court unless he has something he would like to tell us pertaining to this case? Will he tell the truth? How he came to meet Lori, how they got into this zombified funk they got into, following cult, whatever you want to call it, how all these people came up dead, missing. Will he just go ahead and tell the truth? Maybe he'll go ahead and tell the truth to avoid the death penalty because it is on the table for him. And many are still questioning why it wasn't offered to Lori, but we now hear information about evidentiary material not handed over in time, which I don't understand because everybody's had ample enough time to get all information out to either side. So I'm not really understanding that. But that's my said commentary. What will happen with Mr. Chad Daybell? Will we learn some new information pertaining to the deaths of all these people? Will he turn on Lori? Will they ever speak again? Will they ever be granted access to speak to one another? We know they can't ever visit because they're both incarcerated, but will they be allowed to ever communicate with one another? That would have to be very hard on either party to not be able to communicate with each other, knowing that they orchestrated all these crimes together. Don't you find that interesting? You go to all this trouble to kill all these people to only get locked up, finally get locked up, and you can't even talk to the other party. You can't write a love letter. You can't write a letter about what their defense is going to be, what they're going to say and do. You can't say anything. And naturally, at the end of the trial, her attorney tried to imply that this was all Chad's doing. She didn't start acting funny till she met him. I wonder how did Chad feel about that? Hey, why are you, Lori, saying that? It's all me, all on me. See, that was very subtle, that jab to the gut. Oh, yeah, it's all Chad's doing. She was all right till she met Chad. But we learned from her mother, she wasn't all right. She was talking weird people talk and seeing biblical figures in the Bible, allegedly speaking to them, talking to them there, visiting her before she ever met Chad Daybell. So Lori had mental issues even before meeting Chad. So it wasn't all Chad's whack ideology that got her on the bandwagon. She was having some mental issues beforehand. And see, that's the gist of the story, is that, once again, you don't know people. Some people didn't know that she was already off her rocker. It wasn't until she got with him that she was more vocal, I'm assuming. And that's when people started realizing, okay, something's off. Every time I talk to her, she's saying negative things about her children, that they're zombies and this and that. And see, somebody should have known something was wrong then. When you started hearing negative commentary about a woman's children, you should have cut her off. And you should have notified somebody, such as her husband. Hey, there's something going on with your wife. Every time I talk to her, she's calling her children zombie. She's now calling you a zombie. I think you need to get your wife some help. And sadly, this man went forward dealing with Lori when he knew something was up between she and the brother, because he's on audio telling her own brother that, the other brother. I think they're planning something. And lo and behold, he goes right into the lion's den to get shot. Murdered. He claimed his own death. This is a very wicked tale. And the fact that she's laughing on audio right outside the same house where the man's lying dead, talking about her husband and the neighbors watching and seeing what's going on. Hi, neighbors. Who acts like that? And your husband's lying dead inside the house. And worried about picking up the children from school and this and that, trying to put on. That lady had no remorse because it was a setup. And the law enforcement fell right into the hands and fell right for it. No question. See, you don't know people. All this smiley face stuff you get from people every day, it's a bunch of bull. People tell you what they want you to know. They tell you what sounds good at that time. But it does not mean it is the truth. Nobody's going to tell you that, oh yeah, by the way, I'm trying to kill my kids, kill my husband. Why would I tell you that? I'm in love with another man and I want these people out of the damn way so I can be with him. I want to help my girlfriend kill her family because I'm in love with her and I no longer love my wife and I don't want to be with her. And like someone said, Chad probably would have killed his own damn kids if they were young. They wanted to be together, uninterrupted. No kids, no wives, no husbands, no children to take care of, just you and I. That's deep. When you start planning to knock off a human and then start plotting another human, you are far removed from the world. But it does not mean you don't know what you're doing. You're sick, yes, but you are aware of your faculties. Thank you for joining me, everybody. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Beganji129 Cash App, stickers and chats are always welcome during a live stream. Please join me later for an in-depth discussion pertaining to Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith, their relationship. She claims that they have been separated for years. She's also contemplated suicide in 2011, wanting to crash her car to kill herself, deeply depressed for whatever reason. She and Tupac did not have any chemistry. That's why nothing ever transpired between the two in a sexual manner. She also has a book that will be released on the 17th of October, which will be Tuesday. Some people believe she's only pumping up this book by giving this interview to NBC pertaining to her life with Will, what's going on. She's also claiming, as I said, to be living separately from this man for many years, but will not divorce him. Doesn't have a need to divorce him. But the one thing I find interesting from this commentary that I read earlier is that she says that they are in a healing mode at the moment and do not feel the need to talk to the other one about who they are sleeping with or cheating with. That makes no damn sense to me. How can you heal if you're currently sleeping with another person and you are married? Please explain that to the queen. Why would you not want to discuss who you are laying up with? Because that's a part of what your problem is. Or are. How are you going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what's wrong in the marriage if you can't discuss what you see in another human being? What made you talk to him? What made you talk to her? What made you decide to have sex with them? What qualities do you see in them? What qualities you don't like in them? Why would you not want to discuss that in a session with whomever you're speaking to? The fact that you all been meeting up in public for years and people thinking you're together, well, it is a fraud. And it's not that you owe people an explanation, but think about that for a minute. Two people at an award ceremony, public events, sends the message that we are together. We are a united front. So to some degree, you are sending a message to the public that you are a fraud. Whether we care about what's going on in your life or not, it's the message that you're sending. You two are together. Now we hear 10 years or so, 7 to 10 years, you all been living separately. I thought you were trying to say you were in the same house living, but doing your own thing. So nobody ever saw you all coming out of a home alone without the other one. I find that very strange because the paparazzi stays in people's business. And then two, people talk. That's my next live tonight. Join me. Get your popcorn and your wine or your soda pop and join the queen later tonight for Grown Folk Hour. I decided to do it at night because I figured it might get a little nitty gritty. And I figured I didn't want to be discussing this on YouTube during daylight savings time. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hippie, thank you for joining me. You all have a wonderful evening. Please check the my community board for said updates, posts, breaking news. And I will be back with more stimulating conversation. And this week, I would like to bring a crime vault story, and it will be pertaining to Susan Smith. I have not done a crime vault story, none this year that I can recollect. So we're going to go back into history and discuss Susan Smith. I found a documentary pertaining to her last night, and it is a version from the guy who had sex with her in jail. Very interesting story. Very interesting. And he is still married to his wife. Never knew this. I never heard about the guy who had sex with her. I had heard, stories that she had relations in jail, but I never knew who the guy was, what he looked like, or that he was married at the time and that they are still married. And it is a very interesting story because he lays out that he can't even get a job, has been unemployed since being fired, and also on the sex offender registry, which I find a bit much. I'm going to put that on the poll too. Do you think it's right for this man to be on the sex offender registry because he didn't violate rights of a child or underage person? And I wouldn't consider it rape if it's consensual. So why would he be on a sex registry? And I wouldn't consider her indigent. She's an inmate. She went to jail by choice. When I talk about a mental patient, someone in a mental hospital facility, and you took advantage of them, forced them into rape. So this is a very interesting topic. Let's discuss it later on tonight, everybody. Thank you for joining me. God bless all of you. You have been listening to The Vote XL.